Welcome back. We begin this newscast with the presidency, where President Julius Maada Bio has welcomed Mr. Leslie Ohumeli, Associate Director of the King's Foundation in the UK, at State House. Their discussions focused on advancing urban planning efforts in Sierra Leone. Our State House correspondent Almosire tells us more.
Press Secretary Yusuf Keketamasani said the visit follows President Bio's discussions with the King's Foundation in Scotland during his first time in office. The goal to strengthen collaboration to sustainable urbanization in Sierra Leone. Mr. Ohumeli thanked President Bio for the warm reception. He outlined key objectives, including evaluating a rapid planning toolkit's impact in Bo City and planning its expansion to other provincial cities.
The purpose of this visit is to look at how the rapid planning toolkit can benefit development planning in Sierra Leone. We understand the challenges of rapid urban expansion, not just in Sierra Leone but across the Commonwealth, as you've seen. And we believe that the rapid planning toolkit has shown huge benefits in helping to control, manage, and plan for development and growth. And something that we believe that is of Your Excellency and would like to access those benefits for other secondary cities.
Mr. Ohumeli also plans to engage key stakeholders on a strategic partnership to roll out the King's Foundation's Sustainable Urbanization and Development Training Program. He assured President Bio of the Foundation's commitment to supporting the government's vision.
We have a Sustainable Urbanism and Development Program that we created at the King's Foundation, which is currently being delivered with a couple of partner countries. And we're using that to build both on the experience from the Rapid Planning Toolkit, but also the Declaration of Sustainable Urbanism from Rwanda 2022, where we are helping party, states, and governments to create the structures and the capacity building that you need to actually deliver on those objectives. For us, we've seen with Haja as a good example what can happen where you build your people and creates the capacity for them to work towards delivering those objectives. And we think that it's something that Your Excellency and Sierra Leone would benefit from. And so we wanted to also introduce that to you and to look at how that can be partnered with the rollout of the toolkit so that we use the opportunity for that to also build that capacity.
Both Cities Development and Planning Officer Haja Halima Lukule highlighted the toolkit's role in urban planning. She said it has already improved service delivery, enhancing access to utilities, essential services, and recreation. Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Ambassador Tamba Lamina, praised the initiative. Mr. Lamina emphasized the need for structured urban planning nationwide and expressed optimism about scaling both cities' model.
It's good for us now to expand or to move to the other cities, with Bo being the base and the benchmark that will actually be the reference point for the other cities as well. But one thing that is really reducing the urban planning thing as well is the fact that these cities were cut out ages ago, maybe before 2004, and the cities have now expanded. And there's a need for us to have a new cartographic area of where the city should be in terms of vis-a-vis the district councils in these urban areas. I think that's where I want to actually come.
President Julius Maada Bio reaffirmed his commitment to sustainable urban development. President Bio linked Mr. Ohumeli's visit to his earlier talks in Scotland and consultations with both cities' stakeholders.
All I will be interested in is how well have we been able to get his people, the local chiefs, the heads of the local communities, town chiefs, community, the youth, paramount chiefs and up to the district level, because we have to accept, they have to accept that, you know, we have other cities around the world that are very beautiful and they are planned and they make life easy and livable, you know, in those cities. How can we make ours or model ours along that line?
The president called for a national urban master plan to manage Sierra Leone's rapid city expansion. He stressed the need for an inclusive approach involving landowners, local councils, civil society, the media, and citizens.
We have to buy into this first, the sustainable urban development. We have to accept that it's the best way. We want to be able to move about our city very easily, you know, when it's all completely built up in ways that can make life easy, you know, at the end. So I'm happy that we have already started with that, and the Chinese have done quite a lot in that area, but I think we may also need to develop more people if we want to move this, and not if, we have to do it.
Urban planning, he said, is key to the country's future. It includes mapping population growth, zoning, transportation, analysis, water supply management, and land use planning. For SABC TV News Hour in Freetown, Hawa Mosibe reporting.
And now Vice President Dr. Mohamed Childe Jallow has graced the first ever NGO week to have been celebrated in the country. The theme for the maiden celebration is supporting communities for sustainable development. Dr. Jallow encouraged them to strategize on own source revenue for lasting impact on communities. The event held at Miata Conference Center in Freetown. Joseph Toure was there for the SLBC.
In here, we are representatives of various NGOs and INGOs operating in the country. What a way to have celebrated the work of NGOs in complementing government's agenda. The first ever NGO week in Sierra Leone was not only to celebrate their successes, but to cementing their relationship with government in supporting communities to enhance sustainable development.
We have seen how empowered communities can overcome adversity, build resilience, and thrive in the face of challenges. But for far too long, the selfless efforts of our NGO sector have gone unrecognized on the national scale. Today, we want to change that narrative. So we're going to celebrate, we're going to reflect, but also recommit ourselves to the work of empowering our communities for sustainable development.
Amid the exciting moment to honor NGOs, Minister of Planning and Economic Development Kenya Bale described them as active and vibrant partners to government. The reason government has given them the environment to operate freely. She underscored some of the crucial roles they have been playing in driving development even at local levels.
We acknowledge that NGOs are a unified force in our national development and that they play a vital role in addressing social, environmental, and humanitarian issues in Sierra Leone. And NGOs, both national and international, in Sierra Leone work tirelessly to advocate for inclusion of vulnerable populations and the promotion of sustainable development.
Crowning the occasion, Vice President called on NGOs to make more meaningful impact in localities. He said over the years, their footprints have been remarkable, but was concerned about sustainable development in those places.
So this is the time certain social infrastructure, like water, like solar, like technical vocational institute for training, and let's encourage communities to be part of the sustainability element, and no matter how little, let them contribute to keeping those social infrastructure in place. Believe you me, the funding landscape for development financing is shrinking. It is going to continue to shrink. And make no mistake, there are already NGOs here that are affected by the USAID bomb. So make no mistake, it is going to multiply.
Several donor partners and the private sector urged them to repositioning themselves to do more for the people of Sierra Leone. NGO Week was first celebrated by the United Nations in February 2014. SLBC, Joseph Toure reporting.
As part of its public engagement, the Audit Service Sierra Leone has met with a number of civil society organizations on the implementation of the 2023 Auditor General's reports. The annual engagement aims to seek CSO partnership and promote citizens' participation in the implementation of the recommendations in the reports. Audit Service also used the meeting to provide an overview of the 2023 audit reports. Sorika Marata Sosmo. We're sorry for not bringing you that news story, but we'll do so during our 3 p.m. newscast. Now, residents of Bathurst have called on government to either compensate or relocate them after a massive demolition exercise. The affected person said some of them went through legal processes to acquire the said properties. Mohamed Kroma reports.
The demolition exercise by the National Protected Area Authority, together with the security sector, left many people in a pool of tears as their structures were razed to the ground. The affected persons were said to have encroached within the green belt, specifically closer to Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary, where endangered species are conserved.
It was as a result of the mandate given by the President to clear all waterways, disaster-prone environment, catchment area, all areas that have got the potential to cause environmental problems. So the one today is not a very special one. It's like a continuation of what we have been doing around our wetlands, the peninsula, to protect the Guma Valley, and of course we have our sanctuary here.
However, the headman of Bathurst community, Theophilus Johnson, was dissatisfied with the process, stating that they were expecting an engagement from key players prior to the demolition. But that was not the case, according to him. He appealed to governments to either compensate or relocate the victims for the loss they had suffered.
The government has no intention to develop the area or to keep the area as a forest. There should be some amount of engagement with the community so that the people who own the property years back be compensated or relocated. But unfortunately, we don't see any of that. What we saw yesterday was demolition and executive order. For us, it is very unfortunate and we feel deprived as a community.
One of the oldest residents who was also affected, Adeno Joseph Cassell, shared similar sentiment, appealing to governments to either compensate or relocate them, being that some of them had got documents since the early 80s.
But what you wanna go do for we? Well, either wanna compensate we, if we not the ban, we wanna compensate we, or wanna go relocate we other time.
The National Protected Area Authority is charged with responsibility of protecting the country's wildlife sanctuaries, wetlands and other national reserves across the country. For SLBC, Mohamed Kouma reporting.
Sierra Leone has recently attracted the interest of several companies looking to generate carbon credits by conserving valuable yet dwindling forests and mangroves. This move has necessitated a 2-day national consultation with key players to develop, among other actions, a carbon strategy that will provide guidance for undertaking carbon projects in the country. As Ibrahim Samura reports, the engagement was hosted by NAMATI together with Invest Sierra Leone in Freetown.
This roundtable consultation with paramount chiefs, landowners, environmental and land rights campaigners was designed to collect the views and input for the proposed carbon strategy. This strategy will serve as a guiding document for investors looking to generate carbon credit through the conservation of the dwindling forest and mangroves. Executive Director NAMATI, Sunkita Conte, said the consultation was to map out ways on how to protect and conserve the country's forests, mangroves, and collect their views in the development of a carbon credits.
Carbon is something you don't see. We're making laws to apply to people, right? And in that situation, we want the law to address the lived reality of the communities. Now, all of these resources are found in the communities. The forests are there. They've been the ones managing those forests since time immemorial. They were born there. And so we want to see a strategy or a law eventually that reflects what their aspirations are.
Technical advisor Invest Salon said carbon credit was a new investment sector in the country. Thus, they partner with NAMATI to develop a strategy that would help to regulate companies looking to generate carbon credit in the country. He said Invest Salon serve as a partner to the government and business institutions to enhance development in the country.
We have been working on the carbon space over the years. Some of the things that we've done, firstly, is to try to know first what is the situation of carbon in the country. So we developed a study that shows the situational analysis of carbon in the country, which gives a perception of what carbon is.
Honorable Paramount Chief Safa Tamu from Pujon District and Chairman Landowners Potoloko District, Milton Kamara, lauded the idea to develop a strategy on carbon credit, citing the rampant deforestation on the country's natural resources, stressing for transparency in the calculation of carbon credits. Chair, Association of Conservation Carbon Reforestation, Ben Hampson, said the association was made up of 6 companies working on reforestation, conservation, and reduces emission. He stressed the need to develop a comprehensive strategy that will be friendly to investors. Ibrahim Samura, Freetown.
Ministry of Mines and Mineral Resources and implementing partners have concluded a community development fund stakeholders meeting. The meeting with key stakeholders was anchored on implementing strategies with regards to the effective utilization of funds and disbursements for the development of local mining communities in line with the local council and national development plan. Cynthia Kamara was at the CDF meeting at Freetown City Council. Report.
The Mines and Minerals Development Act.
Article 140 of the Mines and Mineral Development Act of 2023 requires both small and large-scale mining license to assist in the development of mining communities affected by its operations to promote sustainable development. It is in that line that the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Resources, including its parent bodies, have held a transparent meeting about Community Development Fund in the presence of mining companies, community representatives, and chiefs regarding provision of fund, disbursement, and effective utilization that will benefit local communities in line with the local utilization of the fund. Deputy Minister of Mines Umar Napoleon Kuruma noted that they want to ensure that mining communities are developed before the company ends their contract. He said they want to stop the act of giving checks to mining communities. Rather, they want those monies to be allocated and used for the benefits of the communities. Director General National Mineral Agency Haji Dabo reiterated that over the years mining companies have been accused of leaving these operational communities with no meaningful social and economic benefits.
And our new laws and agreements with mining companies allow for the return of reasonable amounts of proceeds to our communities for community development programs. We at the National Minerals Agency are of the view that all stakeholders, particularly the local communities, must be fully involved in all aspects of their development plans, from conception to implementation, and to aspects of sustainability.
Minister of Local Government and Community Affairs emphasized the importance of involving local councils in such discussions and called for the implementation of structures and policies. Minister of Mines and Mineral Resources described the Community Development Fund agreement as a pivotal aspect of Sierra Leone's future, noting the mechanism represents the nation's commitment to securing the wealth of the nation, which will truly benefit the people and communities.
We have to focus on long-term sustainability of this project. Severally, we've seen projects that have come and gone, just as the Minister of Local Government just mentioned. What happens with these monies if the mining companies, for some reason, they go into liquidation or they just stop their operations? Even the projects that are being sponsored, what's the sustainability of those projects to ensure that they are relevant, they actually continue to build capacity beyond the seed money they do get. So have to develop robust monitoring and evaluation frameworks to develop some standardized tools and conduct independent audits. It's not just giving dummy checks and then waiting again for another year to get those dummy checks.
With the mandate that mining companies must contribute at least 1% of their annual gross revenue to Community Development Fund is an indication that Sierra Leone's mining sector seemed to stand at a threshold of change. Cynthia Kama reporting for SABC News.
The Programs Officer of Scaling Up Nutrition Food Systems Coordination Unit Office of the Vice President Franklin Belmore has said that the current breastfeeding rate in Sierra Leone is at 52.7%, which is above the World Health Organization's global target of 50%. He made this assertion whilst giving an update of the current status of nutrition for children in the country at the Scaling Up Nutrition Joint Annual Assessment. Emmanuel Samura was in attendance and now reports.
The joint annual assessment engagement among stakeholders in the Scaling Up Nutrition movement was to review achievements, identify challenges and explore opportunities for future endeavors. Programs Officer of Scaling Up Nutrition Food System Coordination Unit Office of the Vice President Franklin Belmore disclosed that the current breastfeeding rate in Sierra Leone is at 52.7%, which is above the World Health Organization's global target.
Underweight prevalence has fallen from 18.7% to 11%. Of course, wasting has reduced from 6.9% to 5.2%. Current breastfeeding rate is at 52.7% and is above the WHO global target, which is 50%.
The UN Nutrition National Facilitator Edith Rogers says the UN believes that nutrition is a fundamental right and a key driver for sustainable development. The reason they are on board to ensure that malnutrition is eradicated in the country.
Our support to the JAA underline the importance of evidence-based, data-driven decision-making and the need for continuous dialogue among stakeholders to ensure that nutrition remains a priority on national and global agenda.
Whereas the CEO of Focus 1000, Alhaji Balo Jallo, believes that bringing the men on board in the malnutrition fight would make the fight a winnable one because men make decisions in the home.
When we talk about Kumbra, usually we talk about women, also. Yes. But today, we want to talk about the man Kumbra. Yes. Because when we do studies, we find out that it is the men who are the decision makers at the household level. So there is no way we are going to be having good nutrition if we leave out the men.
head of the Parliamentary Caucus on Nutrition, Honorable Daniel Koma, urged the gathering to make it a point that government succeeds because the Sun agenda is in line with the government Feed Saloon agenda.
We have to ensure government succeeds in our agenda. Is our agenda aligned with the government agenda? The answer is big yes, in capital letters. Government's agenda now is feed what? Salon. Feed Saloon. Feed Saloon with enough food or feed Saloon with safe food? Nutritious food.
Acting Director of Sun and Food Systems Coordination Office, Catherine Owen, stressed the need for further improvement in the current success stories to tackle food insecurity, scarcity, and the hike of price of baby food in the market. Sierra Leone joined the Scaling Up Nutrition movement in 2012, acknowledging the urgent need to address malnutrition and strengthen nutrition governance. Emmanuel Samoa, SLBC.
And our Healthcare Sierra Leone USA team of medical specialists have rendered free medical treatment to about 2,000 patients with various ailments in Goderich community and other residents in Freetown. The move, according to the Vice Chairman of the organization, Dr. Fuad Sherif, was to give back to their motherland, Sierra Leone. Joseph Toure reports.
As early as 8 a.m., many patients with various ailments were seen assembled here at Milton Magai Technical University campus to get free medical treatment and education. They were first encouraged to open up to the medical team of whatever disease they have been suffering from. They went through several examinations and were provided with sufficient drugs as well.
I don't pay 1 cent, senior, I don't pay for. 2 months I don't pay for. Because me says that my medicine done but now the 6 months this one I will get even one pressure medicine what they take. So I'm so glad they can give me this thing.
When I come, they can't treat me well. They don't can check me blood, check me pressure. They ask, they sound me, they give me medicine. So I'm so happy.
The non-profit organizations comprising physicians, nurses, and Biomet has been coming to Sierra Leone, their homeland, for the past 3 years and collaborate with Ministry of Health to do medical mission in the country. Like Freetown, about 2,000 patients in Kono also benefited from this gesture.
We saw about 2,500 patients in Kono for those 3 days, and we're hoping to see another 15 to 2,500 patients here at the Goderich Mitimagai campus. It's general ailment, mostly chronic disease, cardiovascular disease, patients with high blood pressure, patients with diabetes, patients with abdominal pain, chest pains, all the variety of pains. And obviously we also have a bunch of pediatric cases that we've seen. We have 2 pediatricians that volunteered from the Olajuwon Hospital. They are also here supporting us.
Some of the patients would receive 3 months of supplementary medication after the team would have left.
Some of us, obviously, we're Sierra Leoneans, we're Sierra Leone medical professionals who feels we need to give back to our people, and we don't see any other way by coming back on a yearly basis to do medical missions.
They were advised on lifestyle and diet restrictions. SLBC, Joseph Toure reporting.
Government, through the Ministry of Health, has received the first consignment of the Mpox vaccines procured by UNICEF with funds from Gavi and the Republic of Ireland with technical support from the African CDC and WHO. The vaccines were received at the Freetown International Airport, Lunge, by officials from the Ministry of Health, Public Health Agency, CSO, UNICEF, and other UN family. Ibrahim Samura was there.
The arrival of these over 60,000 doses of the Mpox vaccines marked another milestone in the fight against a life-threatening disease that has re-emerged in the country. This also marks the end of several weeks of careful planning by the Ministry of Health's National Immunization Program with the support of partners. The initiative not only underscores UNICEF's commitment to supporting the government in protecting health workers, frontline health workers and the public, but demonstrates UNICEF's readiness to provide the necessary supplies and logistics in the shortest possible time in emergency situations. UNICEF Deputy Country Representative Liv Ellen Indrington said the introduction of the Mpox vaccine to all targeted groups aged 12 years and older would help to ensure that people are protected and prevented from further transmission of the disease.
UNICEF has procured and delivered 61,000 doses of vaccines with generous funding from Gavi, the Republic of Ireland, technical support from the African CDC and WHO. And of course, NPHA has also played a key role.
Executive Director, National Public Health Agency, Professor Dr. Fodisa, underscored the importance on the arrival of the Mpox vaccines in the country, noting that the country continues to record cases of the Mpox. He said the agency has launched a community search campaign to help break the chain of transmission by weeding out the disease in the communities.
So this is going to be a pilot. In the next 2 weeks, we are going to extend that to all the districts because that is the only way we can actually break the transmission. As we all know, there is no connection, there is no immunological.
WHO country representative Dr. George Ame said Sierra Leone was among the few countries to have received doses of the Mpox vaccines, re-echoed WHO commitment in ensuring that the vaccines are distributed. He commended the Ministry of Health and the Public Health Agency for speeding up the arrival of the vaccine.
Sierra Leone today is the 12th country in the African continent to receive vaccines as an additional tool. I also cannot fail to mention the excellent collaboration among all partners that has given us this day today.
Dr. Austin Demby is the Minister of Health. He described the arrival of the Mpox vaccine as another additional tool in the fight against the disease. Dr. Demby assured the public that the vaccines are efficacious.
The vaccine is safe. The vaccine is potent. The vaccine is free. It took record time to be able to get these vaccines here because you have a good team on the ground.
Sierra Leone was one of the first countries to report cases of Mpox in the 1970s, and it should be noted that the Mpox vaccine alone is not a single intervention in fighting the disease, but must be complemented by all prevention and control measures. Ibrahim Samura reporting from the Freetown International Airport, Lungi.
The International Organization for Migration under the Global Compact on Migration project has organized a two-day session to discuss on strategies to respond to irregular migrations in and out of the country. Global Compact on Migration is an international instrument that aims to foster cooperation on managing migration issues globally. Abdul Masare has more details. We're sorry for not bringing you that news story. The aftermath of the Sahelian People's Party SLPP lower level elections in Kano district has sparked controversy with allegations of irregularities leading to multiple petitions. However, concerns over electoral transparency have led to official interventions, prompting a formal hearing by the Political Party Registration Commission PPRC. Esther Nene Kamara reports.
The Political Party Registration Commission (PPRC), the statutory body responsible for overseeing political party affairs in Sierra Leone, has summoned SLPP Kano District Chairman Safa Leslie Moira following several petitions challenging the credibility of the recent lower-level elections in Kano District. Whilst responding to the allegations, Safa Leslie Moira acknowledged the concerns raised in the petition, emphasizing his commitment to fully cooperate with the PPRC regarding the outcome of their engagement.
I will take it for granted. This is the final, and it's above everybody, so whatever comes here, we'll accept it in good faith and move forward. As an incoming chairman of the district, I'm always on the side of, I'm always going to make complaints. So you can see that I'm not seizing or trying to use my position to advantage anybody. I follow the due process, and we thank God that these institutions were created to seek redress, and the truth will come out.
According to the zonal chairman, Kaimomo, the petitions submitted to PPRC alleged procedural inconsistencies and the lack of transparency in electoral process prompt affected party members to seek redress.
Now the constituency chairman, when I been the returning officer, Kaidu, then combine zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, zone 23, zone 24, zone 25, where no election not take place. We'll go, we did it for the rest of the day, we'll call up election, no election, we'll call up election, no answer. The grab, we go. PPRC then come, we make the report to PPRC then go back, PPRC call and no can. ONS then come, we make the report, ONS then call and no go. We did it to people, then crowd of people then for the rest of the day. We not see no election happen. So I make petition against that particular result.
As the commission continues its review, SLPP members and supporters in Kano District remain keenly interested in the outcome, which could have broader implications for party cohesion ahead of future elections. For SABC News Hour in Freetown, Esther Nene Kamara reporting.
It's now time for the international news.
Hello and welcome to the International News Summary on News Hour for this hour. 5 months after the far-right Freedom Party won Austria's general elections, a three-way coalition looks set to exclude it from power. The Conservative People's Party, the Social Democrats and the Liberals News say they have successfully completed negotiations to form a new administration. A record 151 days since the elections was held in September. The leader of the Eurosceptic Russia-friendly party, Albert Kikel, called the tie-up a coalition of losers and called for a snap elections. Thursday's announcement follows the longest period of coalition negotiations in Austria's recent history, after 2 previous attempts to form a government failed. The three-party government, which will be the first since the late 1940s, is due to take office next week if all the parties approve the deal. The three parties set out plans to avoid facing a European Union procedure for running an excess budget deficit, with measures including an increased levy on banks. MP Mike Anisberry, who admitted repeatedly punching a constituent in the street, has had his 10-week prison sentence suspended following an appeal. The Runcorn and Elsby MP assaulted Paul Fellows, 45, following a row in Fronshap, Chelsea last year and was jailed by magistrate on Monday. Judge Stephen Everett, sitting with 2 magistrates at Chester Crown Court, also ordered Anisberry to carry out 200 hours of unpaid work. Anisberry must also undertake an alcohol monitoring program, go on hunger measurement course, and carry out 20 days of rehabilitation work. His sentence will leave the 55-year-old MP, who now sits as an independent, at risk of being ousted. The former Labour politician arrived at court in a prison van and wore handcuffs as he was led into the building. The court heard that in a prepared statement given in a police interview, Amesbury claimed he had been approached by a man shouting and screaming about local and national matters. Gunfire and explosives sent crowds fleeing in panic as a mass rally led by rebel leader Colonel Nangaa descended into chaos in the eastern city of Bukavu on Thursday. Residents reported seeing multiple casualties as people ran through the streets, some bleeding and carrying limp bodies. Speaking to Reuters by phone, Nangaa accused Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi of ordering the attack but provided no evidence to support his claim. The government has yet to issue a statement on the incident. Nangaa himself was unarmed and other senior members of the M23 rebel group, which has been battling the Congolese army and capturing territory in the east since early 2024. They are also reported safe. In a speech before the violence broke out, Nangaa had assured a crowd of thousands that MP23 was in Bukavu to restore security. The MP3 has controlled the city since February 16 and has attempted to assert its authority by reopening schools and ports. The gunfire erupted at the end of a rally. Rwanda in turn claims it is acting in self-defense against a Hutu militia allegedly fighting alongside Congolese forces. And finally, on the international news summary, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa expressed his desire on Thursday to negotiate with US President Donald Trump in order to address an ongoing tension regarding his nation's land policy and the genocide case against Israel at the World Court. During a conference hosted by Goldman Sachs in Johannesburg, Ramaphosa mentioned his intention to allow time for the situation to destabilize following the executive order. He emphasized that his ultimate aim is to travel to the US to improve bilateral relations. While South Africa does not heavily rely on US aid, they are concerned that its preferential trade status under the African Growth and Opportunity Act (AGOA) could be jeopardized with Trump in office. The nation aims to maintain a neutral stance in global geopolitical conflict, avoiding close alignment with major powers, including the United States, China, and Russia. However, Trump has pointed to the ICJ case as indicative of South Africa's positions that diverge from those of Washington and its allies. Well, that's all in the international news summary. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye.
And it's our time for the entertainment news.
Welcome to Entertainment News with me, Esther Suzanette Bassi. In this edition of the Entertainment News, Mahmoud is set to release new song titled Come Take Me Hand. Oxlade features Julie Page on his new music video, and legendary Roberta Flack dies at 88. Stay with us. Julie Page, one of Sierra Leone's models based in Ghana, has been featured on Oxlade's music video titled Ololufem featuring Sarkodie. The video of the song, which has been out for so many months, is finally out with the model Julie at the center of it.
First thing first, this your matter make me to the one team. One to the soccer make I give you one touch. I personally want you to be my team. Nobody interesting quite. Cause when you want your body make me that cool. Call it doctor, I need the testing now. Cause when you want your body make me that cool. Call it pastor, I need repenting.
Hope to see more collaboration like this with our celebrities. Kudos to Page. Keep flying. Our green, white and blue high. Now Mahmoud of Slim Nation is set to release his song titled Come Take Me Hand. The superstar has been doing tremendously well to take Sierra Leone's music to the world in years, dropping hits back to back. You can't wait to see that. Earlier this week, he posted on his Facebook page that he would be dropping his new song, Come Take Me Hand.
Cause I breathe in you. Anytime I look at you, girl, when I see through you. Anytime I'm close to you, girl, can't take me on.
Legendary pop and R&B artist Roberta Flake has been confirmed dead. The magnetic singer and pianist whose intimate blend of soul, jazz and folk made one of our most popular artists and a true legend, according to reports. The star rose to stardom in the early 70s by the Grammy-winning hits The First Time Ever, I Saw Your Face, and Killing Me Softly with his song.
Heard he sang a good song. I heard he had a style, and so I came to see him to listen for a while. And there he was, this young boy, a stranger to my eyes, strumming my bed with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with this song, telling my whole life.
Throughout her career, Flake built a musical legacy by working outside the confines of genre. She was known for helping to shape and define Quiet Storm, had laid the groundwork for the rise of neo-soul. But her celebrated work as an interpreter of songs included elements of rock, folk, jazz, classical, Latin, and more, continually challenging racial conventions about popular music and influencing generations of artists. Rest in peace, legend Roberta Flake. But that's all we have in this edition of the Entertainment News with me, Esther Suzanette Bassi. Bye-bye.
And now for the latest updates in sports.
Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, it's the sporting updates that brings you the very best in sport. Now, Leon Stars' newly field coach Mohamed has commenced at the SNF Academy with a group of home-based players who are willing and ready to support his vision. This video is courtesy of the Sierra Leone Football Association. Here is the update.
It feels great. It's a pleasure, it's an honor to serve the national team in this capacity as head coach of the senior men's national team. I don't serve, but as a player, been for over 15 years, captain for over a decade. But how I feel this morning is beyond expectation.
One, let's do. Do this side, do this side.
I've been always the thing, okay, how my first day will look like, how I get to present myself to the players, how I get to introduce myself, and then how I get to look like. But to be surprised, it make a love her more, it make her want to forgive more. I'm so enthusiastic right now. I mean, more energy, and based on the commitment of the players, the professionalism they show, the respect, moreover the respect, and the value for national team, they don't inspire me more. So today is a fantastic day, and I know say if I start this way, that means the future is bright.
Well, all the best to the former internationally and Monaco striker. He played football to the admiration of everyone. Now to the close season, an interesting competition for fishing communities. Togo emerged as champions after they defeated Bond 3-1 in the grand finale at the SLFA Academy. Here is the update. The grand finale was a testament to the commitment of the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources towards supporting fishermen in coastal areas. The footballers showcased their skills, and the sight was a spectacle to behold. The event kicked off with a ceremonial first touch from Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Princess Duba, and former AC Milan and Leicester midfielder, Rodney Strasser, adding star power to the occasion. The highly anticipated final lived up to expectations, with both teams displaying remarkable skills and determination. Bond started strongly by taking an early lead in the first half, leaving Tobo Community trailing 1-0. However, Tobo Community rallied in the second half, staging a dramatic comeback with a flood of goals to secure a 3-1 victory and claim the championship title. Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Princess Duba, expressed her delight at the successful conclusion of the competition and praised the fishermen for their compliance during the 1-month fishing break. She emphasized the importance of such initiatives in fostering community spirit and promoting alternative activities during the off-season.
I'm really surprised because it shows that even the fishing community, we can get footballers that can play for the Premier League. So definitely it's promising, and I just want to employ people who are looking for good footballers to come and watch this gala. Next year, by God's grace, we'll be having another one. So we have quality players, and then definitely we want to continue doing these matches by next year or anytime we have the close season.
In the third place decider, Conakry also secured a 3-1 victory over Solima, claiming the third place title. The close season fishing competition provided a refreshing and entertaining break for fishermen along the coastal areas, allowing them to engage in a friendly sporting activity during the cooling off period.
It's an opportunity, just like bosses were saying, let's just put whatever you have to put. You never know, we're going to see you, we're not going to see you. I grew up here, not because I'm born in Europe. I'm from Mona Salon, then I get the opportunity to go over there.
The football showdown showcased the extraordinary abilities of fishermen and noting that they are not just skilled in their profession, but also possess a passion and talent for football.
We show out here to the community and surrounding are very strong in football because from first half, you can catch a bit 3-1. That's what we say football is a constant till you get.
Abdul Kabia, SLBC Sport Theatre. And that ends the sporting updates that keeps you in the know. Thank you so very much for watching, and see you next time.
Many thanks, Abdul Kabir. With that, we end the news. But before we go, here is a recap of the main points. President Julius Maada Bio has engaged the Associate Director of the King's Foundation in the UK at State House, Leslie O'Malley, on advancing urban planning in Sierra Leone. The engagement was a follow-up on discussions President Bio had with the King's Foundation in Scotland to strengthen collaboration on sustainable urbanization in Sierra Leone. Residents of Bathurst have called on governments to either compensate or relocate them after a massive demolition exercise. The affected person said some of them went through legal processes to acquire the said properties. The affected persons were said to have encroached within the green belts, specifically closer to Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary, where endangered species are conserved. And the Political Party Registration Commission, PPRC, has commenced hearings over allegations of irregularities in the SLPP lower level elections in Kono district, leading to multiple petitions. Whilst responding to the allegations, Safa Leslie Moiwa acknowledged the concerns raised in the petition, emphasizing his commitment to fully cooperate with the PPRC regarding the outcome of their engagements. With us all we can share in this edition of news. My name is Aminata Fofana. Thanks to the SLBC.
You ready for the Zoom meeting today with the investor them?
Yes, boss. I'm ready for the meeting today. And I don't download all the reports they sent to me on the internet.
Make sure so you get super connection, because I don't want one problem during the meeting.
Everything is okay. Everything is fine.
Counting on you, even though we're not in the same office. I will be with you every step of the way.
As mama, I always want waiting best for me picking them, especially when it comes out waiting them for eat and drink. Now this make I always they choose Sarah juice because they make come from with local foods them and nutritious and it gets less sugar than the other drinks them. Not to me say so.
We lab test show say Sierra juice gets 50% less sugar than the other drinks them na the market.
Because we mama they know waiting best for we picking them, now I make we always they choose Sierra juice. Sierra juice and nutritious, it's healthy and it's sweet. Sierra juice, not the taste of Salome.
Discover Sierra Leone, a hidden gem of West Africa, where the rhythms of life dance in harmony with the beauty of nature.
Feel the heartbeat of our culture in every beat of the drum, in every step of the dance.
Experience the tranquility of our shores, where each sunrise brings new stories and endless possibilities.
Immerse yourself in the vibrant tapestry of our daily life, where every color tells a tale and every face a friend.
Come, be enchanted by the sights and sounds of Sierra Leone.
A place where your adventure awaits
and memories are made.
Today is the 28th of February 2025. Good morning and welcome to your breakfast show, Good Morning Sir. The program that starts your daily news analysis and views of current happenings. We are your presenters. I am Emmanuel Samoa.
Francis Bernard is my name. Our quote of the day is from Irish poet Oscar Wilde, and it says, the only difference between the saint and the sinner is that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future.
This one is interesting. The only difference between the saint and the sinner. This one is interesting. Well, coming up, Sierra Leone Standards Bureau react to a research by the Native Consortium which states that out of 500, only 80% of all fuel stations sell at a complete liter, which shows that the Standards Bureau is not doing its job.
As Black History Month ends, we find out its significance in the lives of black people.
And Muslims all over the world set to observe the holy month of Ramadan.
And it's even showing on you. Look at the way you're dressed this morning. I only hope you are going to be part of the process, because it's not just good for you to dress like this, and when we come to work in the morning we find you eating. That will not be good. It's good we have Sheikh Kali in the studio. We have to talk on some of you guys putting on some of these things. The program is Good Morning Sierra Leone, and you are invited to participate. You can do so by sending your comments and views to the number on your screen, or you can do so by going to our different social media platforms. Our Facebook page, SLBC TV Live. The program is Good Morning Sierra Leone, and this is the SLBC. This is Good Morning Sierra Leone, and you're watching us live from Broadcasting House at New Englandville. The program is Good Morning Sierra Leone. You are invited to participate by sending your comments and views to the number on your screen, or you do find us on our Facebook page at SLBC Live, or you also go to our different social media handles. We start with the program proper. Native Consortium and a Research Center conducted a research last year which reveals that there are about 500 fuel stations in Sierra Leone, and 60% of that total are in the western area. According to the results from the calibration or measurement, only 18% of all petrol stations sell at a complete liter, which shows that the Standards Bureau is not doing its job. Well, in the studios this morning to react to this allegation, we have the manager, Meteorology Department, Standards Bureau, Frank Martin. Good morning, Mr. Martin. Welcome to Good Morning Sierra Leone. So this is huge. If we have only 18% of all fuel stations selling at a complete liter, is alarming, especially when you consider the current economic situation that Sierra Leone and other countries are going through. This is a concern. People are being robbed, if we are to go by this report by the Native Consortium. What do you have to say?
Thank you very much. In the first place, I want to let the public know that we don't have 500 petrol stations in the country. Our data doesn't tell us.
How many do we have?
We have less than 500. It's around 311 as at the records we have for last year, which we did. So we don't have 500 stations. In the western area, we have only 121 stations in the western area. And our activities at the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau are all scientific, and everything that is based on science has proof. So we don't assume, or even when you are doing scientific work, sometimes you assume until you prove that it is. So we don't just guess. The right word is guess. It's data and proofs.
So with the data you have, and how recent is that data that you have?
Well, we do our normal verifications starting from March in the western area. Okay, so we do one verification and we do follow-ups, throughout the year. So it is like a continuous process, throughout the year.
So how do you do your follow-ups as Standards Bureau? Because this is an allegation, and even though I do not own a vehicle, but I've had several people making this complaint, saying that the fuel stations or some pump stations do not pump complete liter. Their liter is not complete. So what have you done to verify this particular claim?
Well, that's why we call the process or our activity as verification. Okay? When we go to the petrol stations, we check, because we have data based on the previous year's activities that we check and see if the condition in which we left the pump the previous year, is it the same? If it is, then there is no need for us to make any changes to it. But if there is, because we normally put seals, okay, and those seals are tamper-proof seals. The moment you tamper with them, it breaks.
Mr. Martin, how often do you do this? Because
that's what I'm saying.
People have been, this is not new. Of course, people have been. Sometimes you go to fuel stations. It varies. Some fuel stations you go, when you ask for 20 liters, the level it's stopped in your vehicle. But some other places when you go, it goes below that level that you are talking about. And of course, every Sierra Leonean who owns a vehicle have been saying this at one point in time.
You see, whenever we have severally made this appeal to the general public, you go to a petrol station, you see, you notice that there is a problem. You bring the report to the Sierra Leone Standards. You don't just talk about it and you do not do anything about it. That's the kind of culture we want Sierra Leoneans to embark upon. You see, because if you say and you don't follow up, then there is no need for that. Who is going to act on a situation you didn't bring to the person? Or sometimes when we hear, they will just say, well, I went to a petrol station. Which petrol station did you go to? If you bring that report to us, then we'll do the follow-up on it.
Okay, and Mr. Martin, I know we are talking about this because of a situation we saw 2 days ago where the Native Consortium went to a particular fuel station that is now selling fuel at 26 leones, as compared to the other 90 to 99% of the other fuel stations selling at 27.400 leones. And this also has to do with standards, because if you have a particular businessman selling at 26 leones, then you begin to wonder, why is it that the others are not selling at that same price? We are talking about standard. It means that is the exact price that we should be selling, because I think it's almost 3 months or so, because I stay very close to that fuel station. In fact, when it started, I was saying, I'm not sure if what I'm seeing is right, until the other day when I went there to get fuel for the vehicle, and they are selling at 26 leones, and other fuel stations are selling at 27,400 leones. I know you say this has to do with the Ministry of it has to do with PRA and the others because of pricing, but we are talking about standards here.
Well, you have said it rightly, because we are not responsible for that. One of the assumptions, or one thing Edmond Abu said was that when he had that station sells below the price that is stipulated, his first assumption was that they must have short measured. Okay, so if that is the case, which institution do you refer to? He should have thought of the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau instead of castigating the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau in that kind of way. He should have first of all gone to the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau to say, oh no, we have seen this particular station. This station is selling below the price that is stipulated. Now we want to know if this station measures correctly. But he went to the station and he presented a method he used to check, which is not scientific. And he now came to say the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau is not doing its job. And he said, 18%, yes, only 18% fuel stations do sell the correct measures. What was his justification for that? How did he measure? How did he come
As
to that?
Standards Bureau, do you normally go around to look at the activities of some of these institutions that you are supposed to be supervising or monitoring, if the case may be? Do you normally do this?
Which institutions?
We are talking about we are talking about, because now you've come out with the okay. Let's say if now Edmond Abu is a whistleblower, let's say that he's a whistleblower, don't you think it's now time for you people to go out to check, to prove whether what Edmond is saying is right or wrong?
I have already stated here that we have programs which we visit petrol stations, and we also do follow-ups. So there is always a system in place. We do our annual verifications, and when we do the annual verifications, we also do follow-ups on them. There are a lot of requests that come from the petrol the companies that operate these petrol stations. They don't just go and open the machine and start working on it. They make requests to the Sierra Leone Standards. We have evidences on that. We have a lot of evidence on that. And in fact, we don't just go to the petrol station, you just visit and walk out. No, we do our work and we document. So when this thing came up, I even went to our files to check how this Zala petrol station is like. And I found out that they are not different from any other station, because we have acceptable limits. So it can be any figure between those limits. And I saw that we are just like the same like other stations.
Okay.
So his conclusion, he said, well, is that...
So let's focus on the research, the report from the research, and let's leave Edmond Abu out, because
that's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm talking about, because you can't talk about the research without talking about Edmond Abu, because he did a presentation. So if I have to make reference to him, please, I'm sorry for that. Okay. Now I just have to. He said he went to the stations. His method of checking them was that he took, he got some fuel from the pump, let's say 1 liter, and he placed it on a scale, and the scale told him that particular measurement was correct, and that he marked and went to other stations, checking them. But I have to say also that the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau is the custodian to the standard measurements. And if you have to do any measurement, you have to refer to them. So that is why I said, in the first place, Edmond Abu should have gone to the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau to say, I have a suspicion that this particular station, because they are selling at lower price, they must have surcharged the consumers.
So Mr. Martin, since you heard this report came out, have you gone out to verify the claims in that report?
Yes, In fact, almost every day we visit petrol stations.
How
Because
do
that
you,
is our
when you
work.
visit this petrol station, how do you pose to be? How do you appear to them?
When we are still at the Standards Bureau, we carry our measurement standards and we do the measurements. So we check the delivery level of the pumps, especially when there are complaints from the public.
So you think that just checking the delivery levels from the pumps will prevent the station from pumping what he or she should pump?
No, if the machine is checked and we have sealed it, that is our guarantee. So we do not guarantee the people that are working in the place, because anybody can have their own kind of things, and we are just stationed in the petrol stations. So that is why we always tell the general public, if you have a problem, come to the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau.
Mr. Martin, before we let you have your rest, so since you've been going around to do your checks on these fuel stations to check the standard that they are supposed to use according to the Standards Bureau, have you noticed any fault?
Well, if there is a fault...
No, I'm just saying, you according to you,
Yes,
go
yes.
out, have you noticed?
Yes, sometimes, the pumps can be faulty.
And what do you do with them?
Of course, that is why when we are going out on our verifications, the technicians of the various owners of the pumps will be with us. So when there is a problem, we ensure that we do the maintenance and we calibrate and seal. If the pump is not, if they are not able to do the work, then we detain the pump until they do.
So by then, many people have been frauding.
No, well,
so I'm saying the punishment. What punishment do you give to them if you notice your machines have been tampered with?
Well, that's a different scenario. Okay, we cannot punish anybody if the machine is faulty, but we punish people if they tamper with the
But that's
seals.
what I'm asking.
And that is what. And in fact, I have told you the procedure. There is a procedure for anyone to have access to our seals. They write and request that they want us to, they want permission to break the seals, and we give them that permission to break the seals. They cannot break the seals by themselves. It's a criminal offense.
Do you have your staff members always around to when they are breaking these seals?
Yes, of course. We give them the permission to break. So if we do not give
It's a representative from the Standards Bureau.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. He is Mr. Frank Martin, and he is from the Standards Bureau.
Continue to stay with us. And to another issue, the Black History Month is observed annually and originated from the United States, where it is also known as African American History Month. It began as a way of remembering important people. Okay, from there we go to the Ramadan. Today it is said that the Ramadan will commence today. And Ramadan is observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, prayer and reflection, among others. Ramadan occurs during the 9th of the Islamic calendar. It is a commemoration of Muhammad's first revelation. The annual observance of Ramadan is regarded as one of the 5 pillars of Islam and lasts 29 to 30 days from one sighting of the crescent moon to the next. Fasting from dawn to sunset is obligatory for all adult Muslims who are not acutely or chronically ill, traveling, elderly, breastfeeding, diabetic, pregnant, or menstruating. The spiritual rewards of fasting are believed to be multiplied during Ramadan. Accordingly, during the hours of fasting, Muslims refrain not only from food and drink, but also tobacco products, sexual relations, and sinful behavior, devoting themselves instead to prayer and study of the Quran. In the studio, we have a Muslim cleric, the PRO of the Sierra Leone Muslim Congress, Sheikh Ali Kale, to talk more about the spiritual aspect of the month of Ramadan. Good morning, Sheikh, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak.
In
advance to all of you at the SLBC and even my colleague Sheikh in the studio.
And we also have Mr. Ibrahim Baba Kamara, who will be talking about the economic aspects.
Good morning, Mr. Ibrahim Baba Kamara.
Good morning, my Muslim brother and my sister. Good morning, listeners.
Okay, Sheikh, let's talk about the spiritual aspects of the holy month of Ramadan, because so many Muslims or so many people, they fast, or they do not really know what's the fast for.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, theology is different from ideology. Ramadan was ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us, the Muslims, to keep it whenever it commences. It is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Sha'ban is the 8th month of the Islamic calendar. Today is the 29th. If the moon appears today, inshallah, tomorrow is going to be the first day of Ramadan. If it doesn't, it means that the Sha'ban is going to be completed at 30, which is tomorrow, because we don't have 31. So finally tomorrow is going to be the day of preparation, the intention, the nafila. So in that case, the Ramadan is going to start on Sunday, as the case may be. But inshallah, by 4 to 5 p.m. today, it's going to be clear, because Saudi Arabia we listen to is 3 hours ahead of us. Yeah, so coming back to your question, Ramadan fasting is one of the pillars of Islam. Islam has 5 pillars. Fasting during the month of Ramadan is one of them. It is obligatory upon all of us, all full-grown Muslims, men and women, from dawn to dusk, every day, from the beginning to the month of Ramadan to the end. And we wish you all a happy Ramadan 1446. That is the Islamic calendar year, and then 2025, which is the Georgian calendar year. We wish you all the best. Yeah.
Okay, so Sheikh Kale, even as well, not only Muslims, because many Christians have Christian Muslim families as well. So it's just that situation we have in our country. So it's like everybody is now preparing to welcome the month of Ramadan, even though the Lent season is also upon us. But there are certain things that people do. Sometimes people get irritated even during the fast month. Some people will just move around, they will meet where people are gathered, they will just send what they are not supposed to be sending and all this. So we just want you to go through this, to tell people what to do and what not to do during this period.
That is isolated case. Spitting around, I don't think that is a decent behavior. That is not associated with fasting. You talked about the Christian aspect. I thought you were asking about Muslim men who are married to Christian women, right? Muslims who live with Christians in the same office or in the same workplace. Yeah, spitting, I think that is not the issue at all. You know, saliva is natural, right? It is there to keep you going. It is in your system to keep you going. Someone spitting around, showing people that you are fasting, that is not part of the game. You know, Francis, you know, fasting is to abstain from food, drink, conjugal relation, as the presenter, my colleague Sheikh said earlier on, right? So, and then you behave yourself, you know, even if someone wants to involve you in some kind of discussions, right, unnecessary discussions, you know, you try to avoid them. You know, this is the procedure, Yeah, not otherwise. You know, as you suggested, Ariel, and then we kick against that, and then we you know, we don't associate that with fasting at all.
So Sheikh, let's hold you there and bring in Mr. Kamara. Mr. Baba Kamara, during the month of Ramadan, as someone who has been within the trading cycle for a very long time, how does it really look like for businesses during the month of Ramadan, the economic aspect of it?
Thank you very much. Let me just say this, Ramadan is not a different month. Ramadan is just like any other month in the Muslim calendar. So it does not differ. The simple thing, people used to hike prices when it's time for Ramadan, which is not good. And we believe in the system. They always say traders hike prices when there is Ramadan. Don't put the blame on traders only. I've said it earlier and I'll say it back. One, you have these transnational business people, the Indians, the Fullers, the Lebanese. They do imports, and they import a large quantity of goods, like perishable goods or food items. They do hike prices when there is Ramadan. And when you go and buy from them, the price has gone up, you have to put your price. So I've told the Minister of Trade and other people that we should monitor these people. Not that they are paying custom in a different way. No, the goods is already at the stores. They don't need to hide the price. But if there is no monitoring, they do. So we have to monitor to ensure, for example, to go out, you see the price of a bag of sugar has gone up. Milk, all these necessary things that we are using has gone up. So the blame is not just only on traders, but the importers as well. They do hike the prices when you know that there is Ramadan. And for today, if you go to the market, you notice that all prices has gone up on goods and commodities that they are using daily on the month of Ramadan. So we need to monitor and ensure that those prices are stable, so the normal trader will ensure there's no.
So Mr. Kamara, do you want to say that it is during the month of Ramadan that the importers and not the traders are exploiting the consumers?
Not just during Ramadan, but people have noticed that during Ramadan, price normally go up. That's the normal phenomenon. But if they are monitored, as I'm saying, if they are monitored, and let's forget about this one business thing. For example, I'm bringing milk like fish and so other goods that people use to consume during Ramadan. Let the government allow everybody to bring these goods.
So, Mr. Kamara, quickly, I know you are talking about those goods that are brought in by these business people.
Yes.
But let's talk about paper. Let's talk about some of the things that are homegrown food. If you go to the market now, just like you're saying, for the other commodities, you go for paper, the prices must have increased because Ramadan is around the corner. So are these also the responsibilities of these Indian business people, the Fullers, as you rightly said?
No, economics teaches us that the higher the demand, the lower the supply, the higher the demand.
So the more reason why we should not be casting blames on these people because they are not bringing in paper.
Let me just come. For example, we get paper from Kabbalah machining area. Let me tell you, to transport a bag of paper from Kabbalah or machinery is very, very expensive. You pay more transportation, and there are bottlenecks all along to bring those papers from this vehicle, and the toll gate itself is a problem. The increment on the toll gate is 300%. And those are factors that drivers do gather together and put the blame or the burden to the poor traders.
Do you want to say during the month of Ramadan, the price for the toll gate increases?
No, but because these products are seasonal products, and if the demand is high, you know what it means. When the demand is high and the supply is very small, the price go up. That's the natural thing.
So then the problem I have is for you to say it's those people that are bringing in goods when we also have our own issues, because you go to the market now, you ask for pepper, which is grown in Sierra Leone, potato leaves and the other stuff, vegetables, the prices are way up there just because Ramadan is starting. And this has nothing to do with the Indian people you are talking about, not even the Chinese or the Fullers.
This blame is just not on one part. For example, let me talk about fish, which is the most important commodity. If you go to the market, the first thing you will think about is fish. And there is no electricity now, I'm saying. We have poor electricity all over. And this fish, you need to use refrigerator. And there are no columns. If, for example, I have a fishing company, I'm using generator fuel to cool this fish. I have to put my expense on how to sell the fish so I can get my profit. So if the fishing company do put a price, increase the price of fish, it affects the market.
So
you know that it affects the market.
Okay, so Mr. Baba Kama, let's hold you there and go for a short commercial break. When we return, we continue the conversation.
Thank you.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm fruit. All I need is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. My soup is done, and its preparation, it is not difficult at all. Nkulenu palm soup base, it's easily done with no difficulties. Just take few ladles and your soup is done. And its flavor, it's amazing. This is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. And this is Nkulenu's Ghana's original spiced palm soup base. Iron fruit and turkey berries are naturally added.
Also available Brown Gold natural cocoa powder, Sunny Gold brown sugar, neat fufu flour, shito, pisa, and moringa. All available at Nyami Ado Enterprise, 1 Lower Waterloo Street, Freetown.
Nkulenu palm soup base.
Ghanaian original taste.
Welcome back. The program you are watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone live on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Well, I want to go over to Sheikh Kale. Sheikh Kale, we say the month of Ramadan for Muslims is the month that they should keep holy. And when you listen to Mr. Baba Kamara talking about, when we ask him about the economic aspect, he spoke about all of the bottlenecks bringing goods from the provinces to Freetown. But even before Ramadan, these are the same bottlenecks that people do go to bring these goods, but the prices are just normal. When it's Ramadan, the prices go up. So what do you want to say to those Muslims who are business people but are inflating prices on people even during the month of Ramadan?
It is very, very unfortunate that the majority of the business people down there are Muslims. But you don't blame them. Mr. Kamara has highlighted some of the reasons. Toll gate was increased about a year or so ago from 1 to 3 to 400%. It affects transport.
But it's the same people have been using.
Yeah, I'm coming. The checkpoints on our roads affect transport. Profiteering also contributes to the whole thing. But everything is centered around the system. In Sierra Leone, we don't have a system. I always say this. It's not about who sells, who doesn't. What does the law say about our prices? In Sierra Leone, it's not there.
So what does the Quran say about people inflating prices, especially?
The profiteering is haram, right? 100% profit is haram. And at the end of the day, you are going to face the consequences. Whosoever amass wealth by such means, at the end of the day, God Almighty is going to punish that person. As you can see, people in higher offices, people we call politicians, people who accumulate billions of millions, at the end of the day, they die pauper. They end like any, in fact, in some cases, they end up being mad people, like mad people. They go mad. Their children, it affects their children. But people are not learning from this, But the whole thing here is about the system. Let us have a system. For example, the garbage cleaner, when you go out there, you see garbage cleaner parading the whole freighter without any protective gears. And he interacts with people. You begin to ask yourself, where is the Ministry of Health and Sanitation? Where is the FCC or the Freighter City Council in all this? Right? When a dog dies along either for our main street in freighter, it remains there, right? It decomposes there and scatter all over the place. We see them along like Wilkinson Road, along all our main roads. So we don't have a system. Price control is the responsibility of the government.
But Sheikh, the reason why I'm bringing it to you to look at the spiritual aspect about it, because we see that all of these bottlenecks that you highlighted, the toll gates and these toll gates and all of these checkpoints, they are there even before Ramadan. These are the same bottlenecks that they go through. But during Ramadan, the prices go up. That's why I'm asking you to talk to those business people who are Muslims, for them to know the spiritual implication of this. Because even during the month of Ramadan, you decide on cheating people.
Ramadan is not for Sierra Leone alone. Guinea, Ivory Coast, Senegal, the sub-region, and the whole world, right? Anywhere you find Muslims, they go through Ramadan the same way we go through it. But they have system that controls. If you go to the Gambia, for example, the government will put mechanism in place for Ramadan, for example, by reducing taxes on the business people. The same thing happens in Mauritania, the same thing happens in Senegal and other places. But in Sierra Leone, that is not the case. Everything is just like that. You go out there and do whatever you want to do. That is our problem. System. We need to put system in place. All this are a form of corruption. Yeah, it is a form of corruption. You buying goods yesterday, keeping them for Ramadan. Some traders do this. They keep them. Okay, the Ramadan they come. When the Ramadan comes, I'm going to sell it. And in that case, I'm going to sell it, from 10 to 20, from 20 to 30, just like that. So why some of these things are happening? Because we don't have a system. I'm always mentioning the system of our country. We don't have management system. The man from the trade, Minister of Trade, right? Are you from the Minister of Trade?
Traders Union.
Yeah, Traders Union. We don't have it. Minister of Trade, if there's any, right? Where are they in all this? Okay. They can't put system in place to control prices. Forget about Ramadan. Forget about Muslims being the market there. What is your law? What is the system down there regarding profiteering? It is not there. So that is the main problem. If you fail to say this, maybe you're fearing certain people. But this is the truth. And we have to say, Sierra Leone, we don't have system. It's anything that we do. That's why we suffer. We the Muslims suffer during the month of Ramadan. In the hands of the so-called authorities, the Minister of Trade or the Traders Union or whatever.
Okay, thank you very much. He is Sheikh Ali Kale, and he is the PIO of the Sierra Leone Muslim Congress, and we are talking about the start of Ramadan and its importance, also the economic effect on it. So we come back to you later in the program, but we go back to Mr. Martin from the Standards Bureau. Now, Mr. Martin, when do you plan to do your next I don't know if it's a research or survey on the standards used across verification. Yes. When do you plan to do the next one?
It starts on Monday.
Monday? Okay. Is it because of this report that you are doing so?
No. Let me tell you our plans every year. In March, we do the western area. In April, we go to the southeast. In June, we go to the north and northeast. So that's our plan.
Okay, so with this report, now let's talk about Edmond Abu and his reports they did. You know, was this report submitted to the people? Have you seen it before him talking about?
No, we have not seen the reports. He has not presented it to us.
So as I said earlier on, he is now a whistleblower. Don't you think you should call him to the table to say, okay, this is what we're glad you've done this, but we also want to let you know that this is the standards we use and this is how we want you to work with us so that we can get the right thing.
Yes, in as much as we want to respect other people for their opinions, we also want other people to respect us for what we do. Because he presented the case as if we are doing some kind of
is it a battle of supremacy?
No. It is not. We are not in competition with him. He is a civil society. We are working for government. And government has given us a mandate through our parliament.
The more reason why his reports must be taken seriously because he's a civil
society. And that's why we are waiting for that report. We are waiting for it to come. He said, in fact, there are 500 stations here. We have not discovered 500. Maybe he has done that. So that's why we are waiting for the report for us to see.
So according to you, how many fuel stations do we have in the
311
across the country?
Across the country.
311.
321 in our state.
As against the 500 the report is claiming.
If he has 500, then that means it is an eye-opener for us. Because over the years we have not got 500 from all of our database that we have.
So, Mr. Martin, has the Standard Bureau ever done, what we call on-the-spot verification? That is, you just send your staff out there. They do not go to the stations as Standards Bureau. They go there as ordinary citizens. They buy from gallons just to verify whether the different stations are pumping the right liter, because that was what Edmond Abu used to say, oh, these stations are not pumping the correct amount of liter that they should pump.
There is no way we can go to the petrol station with those plastic cans.
Yeah, I'm talking about to do further verification.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because those plastic covers, they can expand or they can puncture. So we can't rely on them. So for our staff to just go undercover really doesn't make them a Sierra Leone Standards Bureau. But we want, like a policeman, he's not going to hide in doing his work. If we say we have kind of intelligence, or someone has brought the report to us, we can go to the particular, because we work on
the police, when they get intelligence, they do it when they are on operation, they do it covertly.
Exactly.
They only come out to the public when they must have verified
as well, without even informing the petrol station owner. We can go there based on the intelligence that we have, but we can't just get up, go and disturb people's business because we think we have the authority to do so.
Mr.
We have to depend on the public also from reports. That's why we are for consumer protection.
Mr. Martin, this is just one sector of the many places or the many institutions you are supposed to be monitoring, or you are supposed to be playing supervisory role for. How effective is the Standard Bureau? How effective? How have you been doing your work?
The Sierra Leone Standards Bureau is effective. The problem is that the demand, we have a lot to do. And so everybody has to come in with the house. And we don't blame them, because that is our responsibility. But the assurance is that we listen to everybody that brings a complaint. We let the complaint be justified. You cannot just think of something and say, oh, that station, by perception.
Do you think the public have enough confidence in the things you do, and that they look up to you for you to protect them against some people with their manipulative ideas just to get money.
We have the confidence that the public has confidence in us. But first of all, we have to be sure of what we are doing. That's why I'm seated here talking. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'll be making a fool of myself. Because we have been doing our jobs, and we are sure we need the capacity of what is available to us. We are doing what is supposed to be done.
Okay, so thank you very much. It is Frank Martin from the Sierra Leone Standards Bureau. Well, we still have Mr. Baba Kamara with us in the studio. Mr. Kamara, let's talk about, we said the economic aspect of Ramadan. In the month of Ramadan, I'm not saying that you should give us exact. What are usually the profit margin for traders?
I could not qualify or quantify the profit margin. I'm not selling sugar, either pepper, but we have two aspects in Ramadan. As I said earlier, Ramadan is not different from any other month. In the two aspects of it, one is the exports or imports. The importers, they do inflate prices when Ramadan comes, because they know that the urge for the things they import is greater. For example, sugar, milk, in the month of Ramadan, it sells more than the normal months. So because of the high demand, they inflate prices. And if they inflate prices, it affects the market. That's one part of it. Number two, the perishable or foodstuff that is locally made from here or planted, what I say. You cannot compare, for example, I'm a farmer. Our rice is different and expensive than the Pushawa. If you want to buy our local rice, it's expensive than the Pushawa.
Why?
One, it has organic value. It is rich and very good, and if you taste it, it's different. Unlike the Pushawa.
Has the Standards Bureau proved that?
Of course they know. For example, if you eat our own walayas and you eat Pushawa, in fact Pushawa is more of sugar. It has no value. It is a polished rice brought from India or other countries for a lifespan of about 6 years. Unlike our own rice we grow here, you can find it in new brown rice from other different countries. And if you eat, they used to make it at orchard, they call it. You chew it and it's very delicious.
So what are the profit margin for you guys during the month of Ramadan? Because great traders do put prices up.
I cannot determine that. But I'm not saying traders should do more profiteering. What I'm saying, we have bottlenecks that are affecting.
Do you make enough profit during the month of Ramadan?
No, the thing in doing business is profit.
No, do you make enough profit during the month of Ramadan?
People do make profit. I will not say enough because I will not want to lie. What I'm saying, for example, now, if I am bringing sugar, milk, flour, when you go to the customs to remove a 40-feet container from the key to your destination, it's more than 100 million.
Despite all of those bottlenecks.
Of course, these are bottlenecks.
Enough profit during the
they do make profit. Making profit
is not a crime.
No, it's not a crime, but
making profit.
We are talking about
profit sharing. If I'm a trader, when I sell, it's because I want profit. But making more profit is a crime spiritually or by God. But what I'm saying, not that the traders don't want to make profit, but because of their different things that I'm making them more. Some do loss. I'm telling you, some do loss. If they take their commodities and it's perishable goods, some drivers they take their goods to deliver them to some on the way they don't come. For example, pepper, onions, you name them. But what I'm saying here clearly, I'm advising every trader not to over profit during the month of Ramadan, even not Ramadan.
Because you make over profit.
No.
Make excess profit during the month of Ramadan.
I'm doing business to make profit. What I'm saying, I'm against profiteering, and I'm encouraging every trader to ensure that this is our country, and we should be
thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Ibrahim Baba Kamara from the Sierra Leone Traders Union. Yes, Sheikh, you want to have your bite?
Yes, sir. Let us remove lip service in the whole thing. If the government really wants to assist the masses, I mean the Muslims. Let them bring down the taxes, you know, for the month of Ramadan.
Why should they bring?
I think that's another debate for another day.
Bring down the taxes during the month of Ramadan when taxes are not brought down during the month of Lent, during the Lenten season?
Well,
Lent is on already.
So if you want to include the Lent, I mean that's another story altogether. But what I'm saying, the Ramadan is here, and everybody is talking about Ramadan, right? Ramadan is not about Muslims alone. It is about all of us. There are women that are not Muslims, they are married to Muslims. And the Muslims are about 75 to 80%. And the Muslims are the ones down there in the market. The majority of the business people we are talking about are Muslims.
Okay,
so if we are talking about Ramadan, prices going up, going down, and then we want to do something about it, why can't we reduce the taxes
for this period?
For this period.
All right, thank you very much. I think that's another debate for another day, for another program.
You know, Mr. Kamara.
Let's forget about just Ramadan. Even during December, prices go up.
So, Mr. Kamara, okay, we don't understand.
No, but the issue about Ramadan is about food and drink, right? These are things that we need. During December, maybe clothing or whatever, dress.
Everything goes up.
It's up to you.
Everything goes up as well.
But food, is something that you must consume.
So Sheikh Khalid, you also want to agree with me that even December is not only about Christians.
Of course.
It's not only because when we talk about December, you see people, in fact, people plan for the whole year just to make sure they get themselves comfortable in December, just towards that Christmas time period, towards the New Year. So it's not only about Christians.
So it's about people. Whether it is Ramadan, whether it is.
So they will also say that let's go for a reduction in tax during that period. However, we have to we create a platform for this discussion, but maybe for today.
Quickly, Francis, the whole thing is about people. Whether it is Lent, December, Ramadan, it is about your people in the country, Mr. Governor.
All right, thank you very much. He is Sheikh Ali Kale, and he is to talk about the importance of the Ramadan, even as they are bracing up to welcome Ramadan any time from now. So we go to another segment in the program, Emmanuel,
which is the review of the headlines of our local tabloids. I start the ball rolling with Awareness Times newspaper. It opens with a banner headlines that says, as Commissioner General Madam Jenaba Bangwa affirms immediate action to halt revenue challenges. NRA gears up to justify trust placed in them. Fatima takes shoes and sanitary pads to Bo and Pujaun children. These stories and more you get in the Awareness Times. From
the Awareness, we go to the Awoko newspaper. The Awoko newspaper with so many stories on its front page. But we go through few. The first one reads, Potloko Mall traders applaud security, urge for increased sales. And Ramadan prices set to increase slightly for Muslim attire and accessories. And Freetown leaders deny corruption allegations amid social media uproar. These stories plus more, including sports, for those of you who are interested in sports, you find in the Awoko newspaper.
And the next one I have here is the Standard Times newspaper, and it says, government backstabs major rice importers. The King's Foundation pays courtesy call on President Bureau. These stories plus more you get in the Standard Times.
From the Standard Times, we go to the Premier News newspaper. The Premier News newspaper, FCC uncovers corruption. Several officials detained. And Tourism Ministry unveils vision for ecotourism. Calls for transparency and fairness in the rice importation sector. This is quoting the Chief Minister, Dr. David Moinina Senke. And finally, Mohamed Kalon unveiled as Leon Stars head coach. The stories plus more. If you want to read more about Mohamed, his profile and the rest, go out and grab the Premier News newspaper.
Well, the last one I have here is the Political newspaper, and it's open to a banner headline that says, consumers reject new measuring cup. BO commits to urban planning. Namati invests alone to develop national carbon strategy. Court wants Kamarimba's shorty to appear.
All right, well, the final paper for today's program is the African 24. The African 24 with interesting stories. We go through some quickly. APC, SLPP brace for 2028, and this goes with the symbol of the All People's Congress and that of the Sierra Leone People's Party. To enhance revenue performance, NIA MOF roll out strategic approach. Ramadan is here, and government must stop undermining genuine rice importers. This is also quoting the Chief Minister David Moinina Senke. An extra mile school exceeds expectations. These stories plus more, including sports, you find in the African 24. And we must remind you that the views expressed in these newspapers does not in any way reflect the views of the SLBC. We are merely reviewing what is in the newspapers. We'll continue with the program, and we go back to you now, Sheikh Kale, even as we prepare to round up the program. Let's talk about dress code during this period, because this has been a concern for many Islamic scholars.
Thank you very much. In fact, dress code is not about Ramadan or Muslims. Everybody, human being must be properly dressed. Modest dressing, Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, right? This is the meeting point. It doesn't mean that you are not a Muslim, you just dress like that.
Okay.
During, before and after Ramadan, dignity, human being. Come on, why do you want to sell your money to everybody?
All right, thank you very much,
Sheikh. To one person,
Sheikh Ali.
Send it to that person at night. Behind closed doors, he can put on anything that you want to put on to please your spouse.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Ali Kale, and he is here to talk about the start of Ramadan, and this is how we bring the curtain down for today's edition of Good Morning Selu, and for this week edition of the program. Many thanks to our guests who have been part of the program, and we want to say Assalamu alaikum to our Muslim brothers and sisters, and Ramadan Mubarak to our Muslim brothers and sisters. We know by the time we come back here on Monday, you will be in the period of fasting. Many thanks to our producer, Daphne Zainab Kamara, for putting the program together. Francis Bernard is my name. Wishing you a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend.
But before we go, let's take the poem, the quote again. It's from Irish poet Oscar Wilde, and it says, the only difference between the saint and the sinner is that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. I have been Emmanuel Samura. Goodbye.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm fruit. All I need is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. My soup is done, and its preparation, it is not difficult at all. Nkulenu palm soup base, it's easily done with no difficulties. Just take few ladles and your soup is done. And its flavor, it's amazing. This is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. And this is Nkulenu's Ghana's original spiced palm soup base. Iron fruit and turkey berries are naturally added.
Also available Brown Gold natural cocoa powder, Sunny Gold brown sugar, neat fufu flour, shito, pisa, and moringa. All available at Nyami Ado Enterprise, 1 Lower Waterloo Street, Freetown.
Nkulenu palm soup base,
Ghanaian original taste.
Great Work Center Point Salon Limited. I don't buy the finishing material and for me hose. Give me hose fire and bulletproof to mount them. So if you have one SIM or CCTV camera supply and installation, hose and office furniture them, clip SIM board and electrical or electronics, or even double window glass. When are you normal waiting inside go see na door and person outside no go see inside. Call Center Point Salon Limited na 95 Regent Road Lumley inside Freetown. Center Point Salon Limited na the agents na salon in West Africa for postline tile them from Spain. Center Point Salon Limited get master sabi engineer them, technician them and machine them from Kosovo, Turkey, Salon, Spain and England for do you design and finishing to European standard. Call Center Point Salon Limited today na 95 Regent Road Lumley inside Freetown or call 088 01 95 56.
To News Brief, I am Aminata Fofana. Sierra Leone has recently attracted the interest of several companies looking to generate carbon credits by conserving valuable yet dwindling forests and mangroves. This move has necessitated a two-day national consultation with key players to develop, among other actions, a carbon strategy that will provide guidance for undertaking carbon projects in the country. This roundtable consultation with paramount chiefs, landowners, environmental and land rights campaigners was designed to collect the views and inputs for the proposed carbon strategy. The strategy will serve as a guiding document for investors looking to generate carbon credits through the conservation of dwindling forests and mangroves. Executive Director Namati Sonkito Conte. The consultation was to map out ways on how to protect and conserve the country's forests, mangroves, and collect their views in the development of a carbon credits. The Political Party Registration Commission, PPRC, has commenced hearings over allegations of irregularities in the SLPP lower-level elections in Kono District, leading to multiple petitions. Whilst responding to the allegations, Safar Leslie Moiwa acknowledged the concerns raised in the petition, emphasizing his commitment to fully cooperate with the PPRC regarding the outcome of their engagement. The alleged procedural inconsistencies and a lack of transparency in the electoral process, which prompted affected party members to seek redress. As the Commission continues its review, SLPP members and supporters in Kono District remain keenly interested in the outcome, which could have broader implications for party cohesion ahead of future elections. And residents of Bathurst have called on governments to either compensate or relocate them after a massive demolition exercise. The affected persons said some of them went through legal processes to acquire the said properties. The demolition exercise by the National Protected Area Authority, together with the security sector, left many people in a pool of tears as their structures were razed to the ground. The affected persons were said to have encroached within the green belt, specifically closer to Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary, where endangered species are conserved. Executive Director Thomas Faya Kamara said that the operation was an order from State House to ensure that Kugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary and other protected areas are safe for the betterment of the country. However, the headman of Bathurst community, Theophilus Johnson, was dissatisfied with the process, stating that they were expecting an engagement from key players prior to the demolition, but that was not the case. He appealed to government to either compensate or relocate the victims for the loss they had suffered. That's all in News Brief. Thanks for watching.
Great Work Center Point Salon Limited. I don't buy the finishing material and for me hose. Give me hose fire and bulletproof to mount them. So if you have one SIM or CCTV camera supply and installation, hose and office furniture them, clip SIM board and electrical or electronics, or even W window glass. When are you normal waiting inside go see na door and person outside no go see inside. Call Center Point Salon Limited na 95 Regent Road Lumley inside Freetown. Center Point Salon Limited na the agents na salon in West Africa for postline tile them from Spain. Center Point Salon Limited get master sabi engineer them, technician them and machine them from Kosovo, Turkey, Salon, Spain and England for do you design and finishing to European standard. Call Center Point Salon Limited today na 95 Regent Road Lumley inside Freetown or call 088 01 95 56.
You where they look for site for empower yourself. You worry don't done. As Salon don't get the first ever automotive maintenance skills training center of excellence, now the Freetown Polytechnic at Kisi campus. The center gets the state-of-the-art technology and tools them all about the globe, like from Japan, Germany, Italy, and boku other countries them. For let them meet international standard for them training. That make them they do more of practical, hands-on learning environment, whose students can go get latest equipment and also 4 brand new Toyota motorcar them for get real-world class experience. The curriculum then have first of its kind in the country, as then they offer 5 levels of automotive maintenance skills where they last for 1,000 hours with 30% theory and 70% practical. The student will get the opportunity to take 40 hours entrepreneurship training. This one na sweet me, as for CISE they maintain international standard. The trainers them na Salon people them go train na Japan, Kenya and South Africa. All this na for CISE then give we world-class expertise for all the program them. No worry about the curriculum them, as NCT they don't accredit all. So we encourage all young people in the country for make use of the opportunity for get good automotive skill we go help you tomorrow. More for you where they look for enhance your career, start your own business. This training a gateway for you. But for qualify, you just need for know how to read and self-write basic English. Now Japan government they give support and the United Nations Industrial Development will join on with the Ministry of Higher Education and Ministry of Youth they implement them. You want know more or want for register? Go na Freetown Polytechnic na Kisi campus. No wait, take this one pass you.